Hey, beautiful friends. This is Sarah Blumenfeld with Networking Done Different and outreach of an invitation to more.com. Today, I'm joined by Vanessa Solis Medusa, who is an attorney here in the Clear Lake area. I was initially attracted to her because she also does a leadership workshop called Leadership on the Loose with Dr. Seuss. And she and I are both huge Dr. Seuss fans. So we'll get into that. But first, good morning, Vanessa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
Yes, thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the practice of law.
Okay, so as you said, my name is Vanessa J. Solis Medusa. I am a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. I've been licensed since 2005, so approaching almost 20 years of practice. I'm really excited about that. I have always been interested in the practice of law since I was young, maybe 10, 11. It's just an area I've always had an interest in. And so I've had no sights on anything else. I graduated from class of 1994, LaPorte High School, so I'm a local girl, so I'm not that far away. I went to San Jacinto College and got my associate's degree. From there, I went to the University of Houston Clear Lake, and I got my bachelor's in humanities with the pre-law track. And then I got my master's in sociology with the concentration of criminology. And then I went to South Texas College of Law. I graduated in 2004 and I took the bar in 2005. I passed it, obviously, and I've been practicing law since then. So it's always been a passion of mine. I don't know why I had the strong calling for it. But everything I ever did, like I did Texas Youth in Government, I did teen court with Judge Molly Manis, JP 8, place 2, which she's now retired. In high school and college, I was in debate. It's just something I've always had a passion for. And I've never, now that I'm in it, I think about other careers. Right? Oh, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have gone to that instead.
Right.
That was my path of life. And I just followed it. And here I am.
All right. And what areas of law do you specialize in?
So I primarily practice in the area of family law, probate law, and guardianship law. Okay. And family law encompasses anything to do with the family unit. So divorce, child custody, child support, paternity, grandparents, possession access, grandparents' rights, termination adoption, name change, anything to do with the family law, family unit, I guess I should say. That's my family law practice. It just encompasses a wide area. Probate law is the practice of managing a decedent's estate. So when someone is alive, they go to an estate planning attorney, hopefully, to do some estate planning, so that when they pass away, we know how to disperse their estate. Who do they want their estate to go to? Family, friends, siblings. So my practice for estate is just helping family members through the grieving process, and help guide them on, okay, now that our loved one has passed away, what do we do with their house? What do we do with their car? What do we do with their personal effects, right? Bank accounts, how does all that get dispersed? Where does all that go? So that's probate. And then guardianship is 2 areas actually for me. I also specialize in guardianships of minors through our special needs, that they're about to turn 18 or they're about to age out of the system, because they're no longer considered minors. So in the state of Texas, the law presumes that the minute you turn 18, you're an adult and that you're competent as an adult at the age of 18. And so we have a lot of people that are minors that, for whatever reason, because they're autistic or they're just, have some sort of mental development, whatever the case may be, cannot be considered true adults at the age of 18. And so we want to get a guardianship over them because, maybe they were receiving governmental benefits as a minor and now they're about to turn 18 and that's all about to stop, right? Because they're considered adults. They can be self-sufficient. They can earn their own living, which many of them can't at that point. And then the other aspect of it is the elderly portion of it. So you've got grandma, grandpa, 97, 98, whatever, 80. Maybe they should not be driving a car at 2:00 in the morning, getting a phone call from Louisiana if they ran out of gas on the side of the road. right? Or they're just elderly, they're susceptible to undue influences. Maybe all of a sudden they're starting to write checks to charitable organizations, or
Yeah.
maybe a loved one has moved in, and next thing you know, grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad's money is now going to this other individual. And so we come in asking for guardianship over the person and their estate, just to ensure that they're not being susceptible. Many times the elderly parent or loved one is dementia, Alzheimer's. They're getting to the point where they're forgetting little stuff. They're not recognizing people, but yet in their mentality, they're fine. They should be
Right.
able to go to the grocery store and go spend $1,000 on groceries. They should be able to drive their car at 2 o'clock in the morning and, keep driving until it runs out of gas.
Yeah.
And so the law says, hey, until the court declares you otherwise, you have the right to do that. And so I help loved ones come to the court and say, you know what, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa doesn't have the capacity to do that. And we need to put them in a care facility or memory care, or we need to be oversight over their finances to make sure that they're not writing checks to the Jehovah Witnesses or to the solicitors that, asking for money, or, hey, we just had a hailstorm, you need a new $10,000 roof, when in
Right.
reality, they really don't need one, but
Yeah.
they're writing that check anyway. So,
Yeah.
so those are my 3 areas of law that I mainly focus on and practice. And there's a lot of interwoven connectingness between all 3 of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it basically covers life.
It does cover life. It really does.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the reasons I got called to it is because I've always wanted the sense of helping people, of
Mhm.
guiding people. And a lot of people just don't know those areas of law. They don't know what they should be doing or how they should handle it. You'd be
Right.
surprised at how many times I get people who come to me with the passing of a loved one and like, "Oh, we don't know what to do. What are we supposed to do
Oh,
now? I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we don't know. How do we handle this?" Right.
Right. Right.
Or, the divorcee who's been married for 30, 40 years, the stay-at-home parent, all of a sudden their spouse says, it's not you, it's me, I'm out of here, and I'm taking all my stuff with me. And now you've got a parent who's been at home, raising the kids, who's all of a sudden primary source of income is walking out the door.
Yeah.
And I never anticipated this. How am I supposed to support myself? How am I supposed to live? What do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little gambit of everything here and there. Makes my days very, very interesting because I never know what I'm going to get for that day.
It sounds to me like these life situations can kind of jump on you in very stressful times, less if you have prepared in advance for their possibility. And that's kind of another thing that you help people with, right?
Yeah. So like, for example, let's probate, right?
Mhm.
If we also do estate planning. I don't handle the estate planning portion of it. We have an estate planning department that does that. I like to say they handle the living and I handle the dead. But yeah, so if you go with an estate planning attorney and you sit down with an attorney and you say, okay, when I pass away, this is how I want my assets distributed. This is who I want my stuff to go to. This is where I want to make sure it goes to John, Susie, and Bobby, right? Or look,
Right.
I provided for Susie all my life. I paid for her college. She gets nothing else. Now it's time to devote to Bobby and Johnny or whatever, right?
Right.
So when you
Right.
sit down with an estate planning attorney and you lay all that out, then when you pass away, it's easy on the probate attorney to say, okay, this is what they wanted. It's in writing. This was
Mhm.
prepared by a lawyer. They specified exactly how they want everything set out, and this is where it goes.
Yeah.
The problem happens is when you have individuals who either die suddenly and nobody expected it and they weren't prepared for it, or
Right.
you have individuals who say, well, I'm never going to sign a will. The minute I sign a will, I'm signing my death sentence, and that's the nail on my coffin. And the minute I sign it, I'm going to die the next day, and therefore I'll never sign it.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
worst thing you can do,
Wow.
right? Because if you don't dictate how you want it to go, it's going to be determined by the laws of intestate. And people say, oh, well, the state of Texas is going to get my money. No, the state of Texas doesn't get your money. The state of Texas says who it goes to. And you
Mhm.
might end up having your money go to somebody that you didn't want them to have in the first place.
Right.
And, especially if you have blended families, if you have, a second or third marriage between a husband and a wife, and they
Yeah.
have multiple children from other relationships, right? Or maybe they have a black sheep child that they've never talked to in 30 something years, and they
Mhm.
die without having these documentation in place. That 30 something child, that child that you've not spoke to for 30 something years, is now going to take equally as to the rest of your children. And maybe
Right.
you didn't want that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So in that situation, that's where it behooves people to take the time out, go talk to an estate planning attorney, make sure that when you pass away, your stuff, your estate, your personal effects, your financial institutions, everything you own goes the
Mhm.
way you want it.
Yeah.
Because I've yet to perfect the seance board. And I'm not a psychic or a medium, and I have yet to take my classes that allow me to cross the veil
Right,
or
right.
side. So when somebody passes away, I can't call them up or text them and say, hey, so how did you want this to happen?
Right,
That
right.
doesn't
And
work.
it probably wouldn't be admissible in court anyway.
Exactly. It really wouldn't. Judge, I whipped out my Ouija board and they said they wanted it all to go to me.
Right, right.
So absolutely. So in that situation, that's what you can prepare for, right? With regards to the family, that's always very difficult because people enter into a marriage relationship and they think it's happily ever after, right? I found my prince charming. I found my princess happily ever after.
Yeah,
And nobody prepares for otherwise, right? Life is busy. We're busy taking kids to school, taking them to sports, getting dinner on the table, balancing the checkbook, trying to make ends meet. Okay, I'll see you tonight. Okay, well, we can't. Johnny Bob has this for tonight. Okay, well, then I'll see you tomorrow. And
right.
so when a spouse says to the other, I'm done, time out, I'm out of here, bye bye, nobody prepares for that.
Yeah,
And nobody wants to prepare for that because by preparing for a possible divorce 10, 15, 20 years down the road, what is
mhm.
that saying about your marriage?
Right,
Right? Oh my
right.
God, if I'm thinking about a divorce 20 or 30 years from now, does this mean I'm not in the right marriage?
Yeah,
Because I shouldn't be thinking about a divorce if I'm happily married,
yeah,
right? And so for a lot of people, when it comes to the divorce factor, it's very difficult to have a reality check because it's inconceivable, right? I'm
yeah.
not going to get divorced in 20 or 30 years. Why would they want to divorce me?
Right.
And unfortunately, I am finding right now that I'm having a lot of what I call golden age divorces. I'm having people who've been married 30, 40, 50 years. They're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're wanting a divorce. They're
Hmm.
they're they're coming in and say, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're about to hit 50 years of marriage. Why are you done? You
Yeah.
know, and it just happened. So I
Huh.
mean, with family law, it's very difficult to say, okay, well, go talk to a family divorce attorney because in 20 or 30 years, maybe this might happen. So you need
Right.
to start preparing for it. And by the time it happens, sometimes it's a little too late because they, don't have the tools necessary to protect themselves for something that may or may not happen.
Right.
With the state planning probate, we're all going to die.
Right.
That's inevitable. We're all going to either we'll die today, we'll die tomorrow, we'll die 20 years from now, right?
Right.
We're
Right.
preparing for something that we already know will happen down the road. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. For
Yeah.
divorce, how do you prepare for something that may or may not happen? And if you prepare for it, then what does that say about your marriage? Okay, well, if I'm actually thinking about divorce, does it mean I'm in a really good marriage? Why am I
Hmm.
thinking about a divorce when I'm in love with my person? So it's really, really tricky in family law to try to do any pre-planning or getting pre-information because then that just starts a lot of the psychological thinking and doubting. And then you go to your spouse and says, well, maybe, what do you mean maybe you divorce? You don't love me? And then you open up
Right.
that door, so it's a very
Right.
walking time bomb in the divorce arena or in the family arena to kind of pre-plan where
Yeah.
it's much easier to do so in the probate and even in the guardianship role.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
guardianship, you can sit down with your loved one and say, okay, mom or dad, right now you're doing great, everything's great, but what about in 10 years from now, right? Or
Hmm.
20 years from now? You know, when you are no longer cognitive, when you get dementia or Alzheimer's, you know,
Right.
what do you want us to do? Do you want us to put you in a nursing home? Do you want us to manage your affairs or put us on a bank account to help you manage your affairs down the road? That's easier because you know that's going to happen. You know, people
Right.
are going to get elderly. You know, people are going to some form of dementia or Alzheimer's, or, you know, even as we get older, our cognitive reasoning slows down, our cognitive thinking slows down. We're not as quick as we were in our 20s and our 30s. That all happens. That's medically proven,
Yeah.
right? So you can
Yeah.
prepare for stuff to that effect.
Yeah.
So there's a little things you can do to kind of prep and prepare, and there's just some things that you're just going to have to wait until it happens, and
Yeah.
then just hope it's not too late.
Give me one major misconception that people have about family law and the need or not need for an attorney.
Oh, okay. So the one big conception people have is, oh, we agree to everything. We're not going to fight. We can work with one attorney, or we don't need an attorney. We can do this on our own.
Okay.
Right. The problem with that is people think of the big terminologies, or I guess the big umbrellas or the big categories, such as, okay, well, you take what's mine, I take what's yours, we're done. Well, okay, let's stop for a moment and let's think about that. Okay. Let's say you have a housewife that's been married for 30 something years, right? And the husband, and she has no retirement, none. And husband has $1 million retirement, right? Because he's been working their entire marriage, so his retirement's $1 million.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, you take what's yours, I take what's mine, we're done, we walk away. Okay. Wife says not a problem. Wife is now walking away from $500,000 in retirement that wife could probably use because she has no retirement of her own, right? Or, okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we just sell the house? And then once we sell the house, we'll pay off all of our bills, and then you can have half and I can have half. Well, what if all the bills are more than what's the equity of the home? Oh, our house is worth $300,000. Great. But you're not going to get $300,000 when you sell your home, especially if you have a mortgage.
Yeah.
Well, you sell your home, you know, commission comes off the top, closing costs come off the top, any taxes that are owed are coming off the top, right? And then you're going to pay off all your debts. And then at the end of the day, you walk around with a fraction of what you thought you were going to get.
Yeah.
So the misconception in family law is, oh, well, as long as we agree, it'll be fine. Because there's a lot of nuances in family law. You know, what about the retirement? What about Social Security? Right? Okay, we have children. Who's going to claim the children on income tax returns? Who's going to be able to in the future? Are we going to do every year one person? Are we going to do every other year? Right? What about child support calculation? Who's responsible for the health insurance? Right? And then debt. Okay, we have a house. Who's going to take on the house? Who's going to take on the mortgage? Right? Are we going to sell the home? Or are we going to allow the spouse to live in the home for the next years until the children graduate? You know, because a lot of people, when they have a house, are like, well, I don't want to sell our home. Our kids live here. You know, I want to keep it until they graduate from high school because I don't want to, I mean, I have to move into a 1-bedroom apartment or 2-bedroom apartment, which is just as expensive as a mortgage.
Yeah.
Right.
For
and
sure.
so people don't think of this. All they think about is, oh, well, I take mine, he takes his, we're done.
Yeah.
When I start sitting down with somebody and I say, okay, let's dissect this. Let's actually go into it. Then it's, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
You know, and then kids, who gets the kids? Are we talking about first, third, and fifth weekend? Are we talking about every other visitation? What about holidays? You know, you realize your holidays are going to be split, right? You realize now that Thanksgiving is every other year.
Yeah.
Wait, every year my family goes hunting. Well, there's going to be years where the kids don't go. Well, it's a tradition.
Right.
You know, or you realize Christmas is every other year. That one year you get Christmas, the next year he gets Christmas. But every Christmas Eve we go to my parents. Well, there's going to be every other year you can't do that unless they're willing to agree.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where the misconception comes in is, oh, we're not going to fight. We're not going to argue. He takes his, I take mine. That's all we want.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out the way, because what ends up happening is respective parties go talk to family, friends, whatever. right?
Yeah.
You whispering in the ear, wait a
Right.
minute, my best friend's lawyers, dogs, nephews, fleas, ticks, whatever, got screwed because he agreed to everything. Or, you can't agree to that. You're going to get screwed. And next
Yeah.
thing you know, listening to 50 other advice,
Yeah.
it's no longer agreed to.
Right.
And now they're coming to a lawyer who's having to backtrack and be
Yeah.
like, okay, now it's going to cost you more, because
Right.
had you come to me at the beginning and allowed me to control the narrative, so to speak,
Yeah.
I would have saved you money. But
Right.
now you're coming to me when half of it's done, and you're expecting me to either clean it up or undo it and start all over. It's
Yeah.
going to cost you a whole lot more, because now my time is going to have to be taken more
Right.
than what it should have in the first place.
Right.
So
Right.
that's really, I think, would say the biggest misconception is, oh, as long as we agree, we can get it all done correctly.
Mhm.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because you don't know what you don't know. And as you said,
And
other
that's the
people.
problem. If people, right. And people don't know what they don't know. And when
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know, you are more likely to listen to the advice of other people who've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Right. And every case is different. When
Yeah.
somebody got screwed over in one case, could be because maybe they cheated on their spouse. Maybe
Mhm.
they were hiding money. Maybe they were doing something fraudulently that the court said, you know what? As punishment, we're going to give it all to the other spouse.
Mhm.
Right? We don't know the facts of somebody else's case. So I just love it. That's sarcastically. When people come to me and say, oh, well, I was talking to my brothers, cousins, nieces, nephews, dogs, flea, and they
Right.
said they got everything. And then in the state of Texas, I can get 100%. Not in the state of Texas, sweetheart. State of
Mhm.
Texas, community property. It's a 50-50 split.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how they got 100%, either the other side finally say, you know what, screw it. I don't have any more money. I can't do it. They can have it all. I just want out. And they
Mhm.
agreed to give them 100%.
Right.
Or the court said, dude, you did something wrong, or dudette, you did something wrong, and I'm punishing you. And now I'm going to give the other side more than what they're entitled to.
Yeah.
But you don't automatically get 100% in the state of Texas. It don't work.
Right. Right. Wow. So tell me real quick a little bit about the Leadership on the Loose with Dr. Seuss.
Absolutely. So that is a workshop that I have been putting on for, oh my gosh, many, 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 many years. I got the idea when I was at the University of Houston Clear Lake. I was very involved in the student government and a lot of student organization there on campus, because I was single. I didn't have, I maybe I'd been married at that time. Maybe I was married. I can't remember. So long ago. But no children. So I had plenty of time on my hands. So I was very active on student government and organizations and leaderships. And I was on the founding board that brought on our first annual leadership conference. Right. And so we established that at the University of Houston Clear Lake. I was on the founding board. I was one of the founding members of that. And I came across this workshop through another organization. And it's really great. I love it. So I actually dress up as a cat in the hat. I have the whole stovetop striped hat. I've got the whole costume. I've got the house slippers. I got it all. I've got the gloves. I got it all.
Wow.
And what it is a workshop that is interactive with the group. And each group takes a Dr. Seuss book and reads the story in that book. And then they have to extrapolate both good and bad leadership qualities that the characters portray in the book. And how
Mhm.
did those leadership qualities coincide with their leadership? Okay. So for example, green eggs and ham. And I always read the green eggs and ham out loud to the class. And then we do kind of an example to give everyone an idea. And then I break them up into their little sections, their little groups. But you know the story of green eggs and ham, right? You have
Yep.
Sam I
Yep.
Am, you have the unknown character, and Sam I Am throughout the entire book is trying to get this unknown character. I call him Mr. Grouch. I used to call him my husband's name, and he didn't like that. So now I call him Mr. Grouch. But Sam I Am is trying to get Mr. Grouch to try green eggs and ham, right? And Mr. Grouch refuses. And so Sam I Am throughout the book puts green eggs and ham in different situations, right? With the house, with the mouse, and the train, and the dark, and the rain. Could you, here or there, and every time Mr. Grouch is, no, not with the house, not with the mouse, not in the rain, not in the train, not in the dark. I could not anywhere. I could not eat green eggs and ham. Right. And at the very end of the book, he finally eats green eggs and ham. but only because he's at wit's end. He's like, you know what? I'm done with you. Just, I'll try the damn things and
Right.
leave me alone. Right.
Right.
And he tries them and he's like, oh my God, I like green eggs and ham. I like them, Sam. I would eat them in a house and so forth
Right.
and so on. And at the end of the day, it's a thank you, Sam, I am. Right. And so it's acknowledgement. So how can what can we extrapolate from that book?
Right.
And so one of the things we can extrapolate from that book is leadership qualities, persistence, right? As a leader, we have to be persistent. We have to convince people or get people to agree with our line of thinking, right? These are good for you. You need to try them. This is something you want to do, right? As leaders, we have to be willing to put things in different scenarios. Okay, well, if it doesn't work in this situation, what if we tried this situation, right? What if we put it with the house or with the mouse, right?
Right.
As leaders, we also have to learn to deal with adversity, right? Hostility, right? We're always going to have people who are resistant of our ideas, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are obviously resistant. No, I'm not going to do it. And some of them are resistant in a roundabout way where they don't really make it obvious that they're resistant, but you're still getting the resistance, right?
Yeah.
Willingness to try new things, right? So even Mr. Grouch has leadership qualities. As leaders, we have to have the willingness to try new things. We have to be open to other ideas, other suggestions, and willing to try them. For us to sit here and automatically say no without giving it a shot does not give us a good leadership quality. That is not a good leader, right?
Yeah.
A good leader has to be open to other ideas, has to be open to other people's perspectives, other people's consideration, right? Now, after you've been open to all that and you've tried it and you decide, you know what, that's just not for us, or that's not for me, or that's not going to work, that's fine. But at least you gave it a try.
Right.
And so I have different books, about 10 of them, that have various different stories. So like Horton Hears a Who, King Louis Cats, Yertle the Turtle, the Butter Battle book. I've got about 10 different books that we use that they then break into their groups. And then they take those stories, they read them, and then on a butcher sheet of paper, they list good and bad qualities. And then they present to the group as a whole. They give a small synopsis of the book. So for example, the Butter Battle book, right? The Butter Battle book is about two warring countries, and they're fighting over the fact, do you butter your bread side up or do you butter your bread side down, right? And they go to war over this, right?
Wow.
It's a piece of bread. It's butter. Does it matter if it's side up or if it's side down? It's the same. You're going to consume it,
Right.
But they literally go to war on this issue, right? And it's an older generation teaching the younger generation that we don't associate with these people because of the way they butter their bread, right? So passing on ideas to the next generation, right? Passing on your prejudices, your inequality ideas, whatever the case may be. But that book's also creativity, because they always came up with a creative way to undo the other side, right? Well, we're going to overdo the other side. Let's come up with the bigger, better weapon and bigger and better strategy, right? So they take all those books, they read them as a group, they extrapolate good and bad leadership qualities. Then they just provide a synopsis of their book, basically, and then what they got from those, and how those qualities interact with their everyday leadership, right? How do you as a leader have to deal with preconceived prejudices, right? How do you as a leader deal with somebody that does not want to try the green eggs and ham, and you've tried everything in the world to get them to try the green eggs and ham, right? So it's a really great workshop. I love it. I love presenting it. Like I said, I typically do those at leadership conferences. I've done them at College of the Mainland. I've done it at U of H Clear Lake. I've done it at U of H leadership conferences. Many times I will do it for professional organizations as a workshop, to just kind of like an icebreaker type workshop. I have done it just as a speaker, but it's not as fun. I like it when they get into their groups. I like it when they read the books together. I like it they come up with the ideas together. I like that. So it's more of a hands-on presentation. I've presented it to many professional, I've even once did it for Exxon Oil. They had an executive and somebody heard about it and they wanted a fun icebreaker type workshop. And, that's what I did for them. I have done it for elementary school. level kids, but it's harder for them because at that age they don't really understand leadership qualities. They don't understand how that affects them necessarily in the real world. So it
Sure.
really is geared to more high school is probably the youngest I would do it at, more to college, professional and beyond.
Wow, that sounds so fun.
It's fun workshop. I love it. I enjoy it. And I have a music, so I have Seussical the Musical, the CD, because again, I'm a big Dr. Seuss fan. And so it's got this whole introduction segue that I have a little dance that goes to it that introduces me, and I have the music playing in the background so that they have that. It's a really good interactive, fun
Wow,
workshop that I love to put together.
fantastic. Wow. Well, as we wrap up, I know you are an attorney with Waldron Schneider, and there are multiple attorneys there. Can you just briefly tell us the scope of the practice?
So we are a multifaceted practice in the Clear Lake area. We try to be the lawyers in your backyard, basically, right? We want to be very approachable by our Clear Lake community and the surrounding community. So we cater to Pasadena, Clear Lake, Webster, Deer Park, LaPorte, the areas that surround us. We are a law firm of 9 lawyers, 10 lawyers. We just added somebody new, so I'm still catching up on my numbers. But we offer a wide variety of services. So we have our civil litigation department, which is head up by our partner, Richard Simmons. And he handles anything civil litigation. So contract disputes, business disputes, insurance disputes, anything to encompasses civil litigation, the civil world, person versus person, basically.
Okay.
Then we have Kimberly Bartley, who is our other partner in our office, and she heads up our bankruptcy and or employment department. So bankruptcy, she helps individuals and businesses declare bankruptcy and helps them through that bankruptcy process. For employment, we are in-house counsel for a lot of businesses and corporations. So she helps them a lot with their employment issues. So we're more on the employer side of things versus the employee side of things. We tend to represent the employers when they're like, okay, how do I hire somebody and make sure I'm firing them correctly? Or I've got new hires, help me draft up a new handbook. Or I've got an issue with an employee, how do I document this? So it's more the employer aspect of things and not so much the employee aspect of things. Okay. Then we have Mark Schneider, who is our founding and managing partner. And he holds up a lot of our corporations. He does a lot of our estate planning and our FLPs and trust. Kimberly also does, I should back up, Kimberly also does estate planning, FLPs and trust. But Mark is more of our high asset net worth clients. So he handles a lot of our high asset net worth clients who are looking for asset protection, who are looking for maybe establishing a corporation or a business, who is also helping to just try to make sure that when they pass away, that their estate's not paying tons and tons of taxes, right? So estate planning, tax planning, asset protection. Heather Benzenhofer is our other partner. She also does a lot of estate planning and trust. She handles a lot of our nonprofit organizations. She works a lot hand in hand with Mark and Kimberly because they do a lot of the same things together, business transactions, corporations, stuff to that effect. We have Mark Rubel, who's our criminal partner and personal injury partner. So he handles criminal law, DWI, theft, stuff to that effect. Does not handle traffic violations. He wanted to make sure that's made very clear. No traffic violations. But anything higher than a Class C misdemeanor, he can handle. And then personal injury, car accidents, workplace incidents, workers' comp, stuff to that effect. And then, of course, I handle the family law, the probate, and the guardianship. And then we have several associate attorneys that assist us in our daily role. So we have Yanina that I had mentioned earlier, and she helps in our civil litigation and our transactional. So she supports staff to civil department and our transactional department. Presley Franklemont is my associate attorney. She helps me in the probate and the family law arena. And then we have Colin Ballard, who just graduated from law school, just took his bar. So we're waiting for his results, but he is here now and he provides us a lot of support. And hopefully when he passes the bar, he will stay on as our associate and he'll be helping a lot in the transactional department. And then of course we have tons of paralegals and support staff and to that nature. But we
Mhm.
offer a little bit of everything. Our website has all of our practices, all of the attorneys, all of the area of practice. There's other areas that I did not cover or mention, but you can find that all on our website.
And your website is?
It's www.ws, as in Waldron Schneider, then it's hyphen or the little dash in the air, law, LAW.com. So all together, www.ws-law.com. And it tells you all of our practice areas. It breaks down all of our attorneys. Everyone's on there except for Colin because he's not a licensed attorney just yet, but hopefully soon. And then it says what our areas of practice are within our personal pages as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Vanessa. This has been informative and fun. I've enjoyed it very much.
I appreciate it. And thank you again for having me. I greatly appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to do this for us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, friends, for listening. Always appreciate you taking the time. If you would like to be interviewed, please email me at networkingdonedifferent@gmail.com.